masois that the Yidden had in the midbar, so too there was every single day a person has masois, has the travels that the person goes through, and we were speaking about that he goes from Beis HaKnesses to Beis HaMedrash. He begins with davening, then he goes to learning, and then he goes to Hanig Ben Minig Derech Eretz. He was referring, this is also what the Gemara talks about, different types of level of toil. There's the Amal Sicha, which is davening. There's the Amal Torah, which is Torah study. Then there's the Amal Melacha, which is the Avodas HaBerurim, going out into the world and refining the sparks. This is all the general idea of the Elam Masay that takes place by every Yid. Every single day he has these journeys. So again, top of page Yud, line 4. This avoida is throughout the entire day. This means that the avoida is to effect the idea of light and revelation day. In other words, it's not just that the time frame when a person is supposed to do this avoida is during the day, but the avoida itself is creating day, which day means light and revelation. The avoida is to make light and revelation. Like the well-known expression, anon, poyole di mama anon, we are day workers. Day workers, the way the Rebbe explains it, means that our job is to make the world into daytime, to bring light and revelation. Like we said before, the pasuk says, Yetze Adam lefaloi, that a person goes out to his work, and to his service, Adei Arev, until the evening. What does it mean, Adei Arev? So usually it means until it reaches the time of when the Yom is over. Here he plays on the word Arev, and he says, Arev is also the same letters like the word Arev, sweet, pleasant. So you have to work, you have to make it day, you have to make revelation until Adei Arev, until you make and you create a state of sweetness. Like the general advantage that occurs through the descent of neshama down here below, similar to the traveling in the wilderness. That is the general idea. Like we were asking initially in the Maimer, after Matan Torah, what need is there to go through the Midbar, through the Nachar, Sarav, Akrav, Shalosh, K'tzat Meis? The same thing. What need is there for a perfect neshama to descend down here into this world? Down here into this world is just like going into a wilderness. Shalzen them are concerning the descent of the neshama into the world. It says, I am dark and beautiful, daughters of Yerushalayim. We spoke about it in the previous Maimer, daughters of Yerushalayim, koyal neshamas kvichem lamayla koydim shiard l'mata. That's referring to the neshamas the way they are above, before they descended down here below, because Yerushalayim is referring to Yerushalayim when it was in the perfect state of Yira, perfect state of Bit. In the way that we say about the neshama, we say every morning, neshama shenasata be tahira, it is pure. That its root is in a very high level called the supernal brilliance and brightness. Despite the fact that it's in such a high state, specifically through its descent down here below, then it becomes dark. I am dark. It's the lack of light completely. It's the total opposite of daylight. Then through this descent, which is its own wilderness, similar to the wilderness we traveled through in the Midbar, Nasaba Ili Godly Yoser becomes a much greater ascent than it was in its root above. So in Vinova, that's the idea that it is beautiful. In a way of beauty that this is what it attains specifically by coming down here in the dark. Like it says in the pasuk, Mayan Gaim Gan Be'er Mayim Chaim V'Noizim Levon. Also we had in the previous one that it's a spring of living of a spring of the gardens, a well of living water that pour out of and flow from the Levonin. We said that the neshama, when it comes down here, is similar to a well through the waters of the that are in the well, descended and are passing through the different veins of the earth, the different channels of the earth. Then they become living waters. In a similar vein, with the neshama, similar to this by the neshama, specifically through its descent down here below, it rises up to an even higher level than the way it was in its root, in the state of a spring of gardens, until it comes to the level that it flows from Levonin, that we said V'noizlim is from the word mazel. The root of the neshama, we said in an earlier mimer, is only like a spring of the gardens, Gan Eden HaElyon, Gan Eden HaTachten. And V'noizlim Levonin is much higher than that. It's the level of mazel. How does it reach the level of mazel that's higher than Seder Ishtalshalos? That's higher than Leiv Nun, the Lamed Beis and Sivus HaChochma, the Nun Shari Bina. That's only through descending down here, being a well, going underground. Oisei. They call Pratei HaMasois. Adli Yitzim Mekol HaMitzarim V'Gvulim, Gam HaMitzarim V'Gvulim the Kedusha, so they should be able to be like going out of Mitzrayim through all the specific, detailed journeys of the 42 journeys that we enumerate in the parsha, until one leaves all constraints and boundaries, even those constraints and boundaries of Kedusha. Concerning this, it says by our parsha, Asher Yotzu Me'eretz Mitzrayim Gomer Biyad Moshe V'Aaron. They went out of the land of Mitzrayim through Moshe and Aaron, meaning you needed Moshe and Aaron to do this. Hainu Shakoyach Al Zeh, or B'chinas Moshe V'Aaron, the capability for this top of Page Yud Aleph, is from the level of Moshe and Aaron, enables us to be able to do this complete departure and leaving behind all constraints and boundaries, even of Kedusha. The idea behind this is, like it's brought on the Torah, Moshe is the escort of the king. He leads the king under the chuppah, meaning the king is the mashpia. It's talking about Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu leads the king Hashem to us. He draws down all the hamshachas from above to below. Including also the drawing down of the root and the source of Neshamas Yisrael, so that can come down here below. Where do we see that Moshe is not just bringing down the king, but also bringing down the source and the root of the Eden? That's what it says in the pasuk. This is what it says, that Moshe recorded their going out, their departures to their journeys. So they're going out, the Alter Rebbe explains, meaning they're going out from their source above. They're coming out of their source from above. Now, by Moshe Rabbeinu recording it, Moshe Rabbeinu is, in other words, enabling it and drawing it down. The Ein v'Kosav Elo v'Chosam, it says in Gemara Gittin that when it says v'Chosav Sefer Krisus, the main idea of the writing of a bill of divorce, of a get, is the signatures. So v'Chosav is referring to the sealing and the signing of the get. Meaning, in our case, when it says that Moshe Rabbeinu recorded and wrote it down, he sealed it. Moshe Rabbeinu drew down in a way of a signature, of a seal. And meaning, when you give your seal to something, that gives it power. And the way of their going out, meaning the root and where the neshama comes out from, Lamasa Ehem, to their journeys, the way the neshama descends down here below. By days and through that, these are the journeys to where they went out from. Meaning, why the Alter Rebbe explains, many Amorim explain that it flips it around. In the beginning it says and then it says meaning initially there's moitzaehem coming out from above, traveling down below. And then we are able to have the travels to be able to go back to our source through Inyan Aliyah Malmat Alamayla, the ascent from below to above. For the ascent, we need Aaron. Tzarich liyas gaman sinas koyach. The Aaron needs to be also the empowerment of Aaron. Sheshvina de maternisa, the escort of the queen. Hamaylas neshams Yisrael, he elevates the souls of Yidden. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that brings them down and empowers them down here, and Aaron helps them go up. By days, boim l'siyum ar boim v'shtayim amasoyes. Through that, we come to the conclusion of the 42 journeys. Al Yardin Yerichoi. Where is the conclusion? What, like the pasuk says, on the Yardin of Yerichoi. The Koi al Mashiach Tzidkeinu. We know Yerichoi is referencing Mashiach, the Chesiv Bey that says about Mashiach v'arichoi b'yiras Hashem. He will give him the scent of the awe of Hashem. That Chazal say, what's it mean, the idea of the scent? The Moirach V'doim, the Chazal say, that Mashiach will scent and he will judge. So that's why Yericho has to do with Mashiach, because Mashiach is about the level of scent. Through that, the entrance to Yisrael will be in its complete and perfect state, but from the Nachlas Yaakov, in the way of Yaakov's inheritance. Like Avram Chulav, like Yitzchak Eloki, Yaakov Shekasav by Farat to Gomer, by Avram and Yitzchak, it gives boundaries into where and how far the Yidden will inherit. But by Yaakov it says you will spread out to the west, to the east, etc., etc. Nachlav Mitzarim, it gives an inheritance without boundaries. Because of Mamish, it should be soon Mamish.